folks. I got a little over anxious about the tech, but we're all set. So this is part 2B with Anam. So you were just going down the history of Islam, and I apologize again for the misunderstanding
No,
when you
no
said,
worries.
you know,
So Brother Shamoon made the point that Islam does not show the gift of peace that Christ gave to his disciples, and fair enough. I will concede that point, but let me submit though that the gift of peace that Christ gave to his disciples and the deposit of faith that forms Christian dogma. At some point, it kind of is. At some point, Christians did have that much infighting. So
mhm.
why wasn't it always there? If it was truly there.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's actually was going to be my argument. I was going to make that argument for you, like the fact that the church was always volatile.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about that. The church was volatile because there were people that were deviating from the very
Right.
beginning. I mean, the deviation already existed.
Right.
That so, and that's something that the Christians had to combat was the very thing that Christ was warning about. These people that were, well, false prophets. That were trying to be wolves in sheep's clothing and so on and so forth.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, at times it got really nasty, even bloody, unfortunately.
Right. Um, but what I'm saying is though, fine. Like you have to kick out Marcion, you have to kick out Arian, you have to kick out Sibelius. You have to kick out the heretics. Very true. And then you have to develop a canon of scripture. Very true. Um, the temple had to be destroyed. Church had to be made at the Pentecost. Very true. A lot of stuff had to happen. But what I'm saying, what I'm trying to argue though is that we're talking about human nature and how easily, like, how our nature is to disagree and split off from each other. So fine, Marcion was wrong and everything, but the splitting and the excommunication continued, even like 1054, 1500 for Martin
Okay.
Luther. So that's what I'm just saying. I mean, what I'm saying anyway. So I'm just saying, like, everybody splinters, and that's the history of people, and that's the history of religion, and human nature. And by the way, family too. By the way, like I have family members I was really close to 10 years ago, and right now, we're just not on speaking terms for this and that. And then I also know though we're called upon to, like, not cut off our blood. That's a major sin. Christ even says it in the Beatitude. If you, like, bring something to the altar of the Lord, but you're not in speaking terms with your brother, just leave that sacrifice right there on the altar and go home and reconcile with your brother, or go, to his home wherever he is. So it's a really tall order to be in communion with everyone, and see, like, and not, like, with your blood, like with your own blood, it's just impossible, is what I'm trying to say. um but so yeah. But look, if you wanted to show me your videos, I think we can do that now, because it
I
may have to jump out in like 15-20 minutes.
okay.
So in respect for your time, I think, and plus I think we've done enough substantive discussion. I just didn't want to go into the giggles right away.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, so I mean, really, like I said, yeah, I mean, I hope I don't lose your trust by showing this stuff. But like I said, I really wanted some feedback from
I
someone
should be
that.
all right now. I'm not, now I've had my dose of theology, and I feel like I've been heard, and I feel like we're having a good conversation. So
All right,
I realized
so
that when we took a break.
okay. Um, well, I mean, what I wanted to show you was the facetious stuff. And I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
want
yeah.
to show you that, but before I show you that, let me premise those things with a bit of a longer video. It's actually a 15-minute segment from an hour and a half. I'm gonna call it a documentary that I did. It's like a really two documentaries, maybe a 2 3 hour long thing that I cut. It's overlapped, so it's information was overwhelming. Um,
All right. I'll
but
watch
yeah,
whatever you want me to watch.
yeah. So what happened was because I don't have a paid account with YouTube, I can only upload 15-minute segments max. And so I broke it up in 15-minute chunks. It's hour and a half long thing. Um, And what YouTube did was it left everything else up, even though it semi-censored some of the things.
By the way, you can over time it'll let you get rid of that
Oh,
limit.
really?
Yeah, but you have to be like, be a regular contributor and stuff. But yeah,
Maybe by now it's gone because I've noticed. Yeah, I think you're right.
yeah.
So yeah,
Because I
basic.
remember that limit, but
So,
as soon as I made like 5 videos, they just let me do hour videos and all
yeah, I think you're right.
that.
Yeah, so basically what they did was and this was after some time, all the other videos kind of got semi-censored with the warning, well, you have to click and do the extra steps to watch them, kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, the banners, don't watch this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the one video that was the most critical, it was a video that included news reports and historical illustration by a, a doctor of Islamic studies kind of thing.
All right.
That video was completely removed. It got flagged.
Mm-hmm.
And it got flagged under the idea that I was promoting a criminal activity organization,
Mm-hmm.
or I wasn't providing context, which
Mm-hmm.
is absurd. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that 15-minute segment was nothing but context and was rebuking criminal activity organization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the video that the PhD guy did illustrated it was a comparison between the quote unquote crusades and jihadi battles in Europe and the Middle East, like the beginning, and just only that region. So I don't know how that's promoting criminal organization activity. And the other videos that I showed were actual news clips of terrorist activity. So I don't know how that's promoting it. I mean, not to mention in the middle, I had some discussion and so on and so forth. So it just made no sense to get that removed. But the rest of the stuff, the other 15-minute segments, with over a half a dozen of them, they included the same stuff, by the way. I have this one video clip where this one guy's getting his head cut off. That wasn't flagged. That's fine. Some other stuff that was inflammatory, not as bad as these videos that I want to get your feedback from, but still, I mean, it was you know, it was negative or whatever you want to say. That stuff is fine. But the stuff that was factual, critical, and see for yourself proof from actual news reports, somehow that gets removed. So what do you think about that?
I mean, there's, it sounds like an algorithm's misidentifying stuff. But like you said, if there's a video of someone getting their head cut off, the
It's still
algorithm
up.
just didn't catch it. Yeah.
Well, I see. I mean, that's frankly, let me just say that's the excuse you use. I talked about this and actually I was on this on uh, uh, I was on a stream last night that I'm mentioning again. The Florida legislation that protected Facebook's algorithms and therefore protected algorithms in general and so on and so forth and set legal precedents where it made it untouchable.
Mm.
And that's the excuse that's being used for this very reason. Well, you know what? It's not, our control. But here's the thing. I appealed it, and the appeal was rejected. So you can't say that's the AI, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is though, okay, so here's what I should do, right? Like I should flag that cutting off head video because I don't think it's particularly appropriate to have that kind of graphic stuff on YouTube. Um, but like what I'm saying is though, the algorithm is the one that caught the thing that got the appeal rejected, and the algorithm didn't catch the thing that arguably should be rejected. So it's just an algorithm. But yeah, so the appeal was a person. But what I'm saying is though the algorithm's catching. Okay, and then I see what you're saying. You're saying it's critical of criminal activity. So why would they reject the appeal? But like footage of violence is pretty. I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm like violent footage. Because like there's There's a website like Live Leak. Okay,
Uh,
look. Okay.
what's that?
Basically, okay, look. The news will not show footage of someone getting a beat down, right? Even if you have
Right.
like a gang beating someone down, right? The news will not show footage. Like I just saw, by the way, the Ukrainians, they returned a okay, Russian prisoner signed up for the war with the Wagner Group. He agreed for 6 months. He'd be free, but he has to fight Ukraine. He defects to the Ukrainians. They keep him for a month, and then they give him back to the Russians. In return, they get 23 Ukrainian prisoners of war. And the Wagner Group, what it does to traitors is it bashes their heads in with a sledgehammer. So
Yikes.
on November
Some
1st, oh, this is
leverage.
famous. They give, I mean, it's funny because people buy sledgehammers to support
Oh
the
boy.
Russian war effort. Anyway, so November 1st, there is a Telegram video of the man saying, hey, I'm with the Ukrainian military intelligence. I'm okay. November 13th, there's a video of him getting that. I don't mean to put that image in your head. There's
No,
a
it's
video of
fine.
his
I mean,
there's a video of his execution on Telegram also. So what I'm saying is though you can't broadcast this stuff because various reasons, but people get off on it. That's the main problem.
well, I mean,
Like
yeah, it wasn't nowhere there that graphic. It was in the process of, and it cuts off. It's news
oh
footage.
okay,
So
oh
yeah,
it's news footage. Okay, but what?
yeah.
Okay, so but okay, but anyway, so the thing is though like live news footage of like violence in action, it is very I don't know. I feel like in the news we would censor that. Um, but you're saying just stuff that's critical is getting censored. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah, it's extremely fishy, but the fact that they rejected my appeal is insane. It's beyond
I mean,
insane.
it's pretty much why David Wood left, right? He was tired of
Hmm.
like not arguing with arguing with the algorithm.
So, yeah, I guess the reason that I talked about that with you is really because I wanted my audience to hear it again. But
But here's
sorry.
here's my defense of it, though, right? You
But
can do all
let
the
me finish. Sorry.
criticism that you want. It's just the graphic footage, which is kind of
Well, again, yeah, I mean, stuff
But
that
like you
wasn't
said, it
allowed.
was a professor of talking anyway.
Yeah, so that's the point I want to make here is that again, I want to emphasize how the other stuff that was inflammatory is still up. I think
Okay.
there's a reason for that. I think there's a pattern that's clear that's going on. One, the obvious, Christians are being silenced. Two, anti-Christians are being supported. But here's the other thing. Um, yeah, and again, I talked about this. We talked about this with Jim Bob like yesterday. It was a great little discussion. So what's going on is this divisiveness is being pushed, not promoted, but pushed. I mean, whatever's divisive is like thrown out. It's being completely advertised, and that's not accidental. I mean, in my mind, that's the whole agenda here. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for a fact, their algorithm was promoting very divisive stuff.
Yeah. So the videos that I put up, okay, like before I was saying it was to be viral and all that. Yes, that was part of it. But this thing that I'm doing with my work, it's not. I'm not trying to convert Muslims to Christianity. I don't know if you caught that yet or not. I'm not.
I mean,
Um, that's not my thing.
it's part of believing in the gospel, right? That you have to spread the faith.
Well, that's a universal thing. That just is what it is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like the moral imperative that we are talking about before.
right. I mean, but we're commissioned to make disciples, right?
Yeah,
So,
for everyone,
yeah,
and then
out
there's
of all the
arguments about
nations. Yeah.
yeah how you go about doing it. And so that's where I'm at. I'm trying to sort out what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm trying to use my talents to that end. And I'm trying to do it in what in my mind is what the belly of the beast, like right on the internet, the very thing that I hate, that I loathe. That's where I'm at trying to do it, and I'm trying to do it through the means that my let's call them my opponents are doing it with the same language that they're doing it. I'm trying to be like a troll or on flamer, that kind of thing, because
I
that's
know
what
the feeling.
appeals to them.
I know the feeling.
Right. Here's the problem, though, and and it's not only because of you, but because of I'm watching the Christian apologists, like you're so beautifully expressing. You know, what they're showing me is that, when it comes to Muslims, which, with these latest videos I'm targeting, and I'm not doing it to target Muslims, by the way. I'm doing it to counter. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but the
No
point of my
worries.
work,
I jump
yeah,
around so much.
yeah, the point of my work is to combat mass media conditioning. So there's certain things that mass media has been pushing, driving in our minds for decades now. I've got short lists when it comes to these anti-Christian terms that have been Christian terms that have been redefined to become anti-Christian, or this Pavlovian uh, conditioning or association of bad or evil with Christian, fundamental Christian symbols. That's been going on for generations upon generation, at the very least a half a century, since the mid 20th century, absolutely. And have empirical, quantitative proof for that. I mean, all you got to do is pay attention and look at it. So, what I've been trying to do, what I've been aiming to do, is not only expose that, and hopefully now I'm getting back to the academic path to get get that done as well, but also to combat it, to do the very same thing that they're doing, but to interject reality back into the melodrama or the straw man that they've fabricated. This diabolical backward trope. Does that make sense?
I got everything. The last thing about diabolically backward trope.
Trope.
What,
I'm
what
trying to
was the last
become.
thing you said? Could you say your last sentence again? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's
I'm trying
basically
to do everything backward. You said, right?
no, no, no. I'm trying to expose, like for example, let me use this for
No, no. But
example.
could you repeat the sentence you said so I could?
Yeah, I'm trying to expose their diabolically backward messaging, their conditioning.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is why I created these videos. One, it was to expand on the academic research to show people these tokens that I'm talking about, these symbols and terms, and how they're being portrayed, and um, provide a description for it, while also expanding on that. And now I'm including Christian ethics and so on. And those, like for instance, emasculation or the destruction of the family structure, right? So that's quite significant and important. So I'm including things like that in there now. But also with regards to Islam, um, yeah, I mean, this whole rhetoric about Islam being a religion of peace. How do you feel about my being opposed to that idea?
Look, I mean, first of all, well, look, let me just say, um, there is a competition between two global ideologies, and you know, so therefore, I'm not mad at you for participating in that competition. The only thing, like, if any, like, we can talk about the facts and we can criticize. The only thing I was just saying was, like, I think mocking is kind of, because actually, you were talking about the corporations and their anti-Christian messaging and stuff. You know what's the most wicked tool that they have? It's mockery. You know, so it's like you said, the co-opting of the symbols is a way of mockery too. By the way, so it's something that anyway. So I don't mind anything. It's just the practice of, like, look, we have to remember. If you wanna, just if we're talking about God, we should not engage in mockery at all. But anyway, that's just me.
I mean, no, it's not just you. It's scriptural. In fact, it's even in the Psalms.
It is very
This,
scriptural.
yeah,
It's dozens of times in scripture. But anyway,
yeah.
sorry. Mocker.
No,
Woe to the mocker, the scoffer. Like, all these things are.
there you
It's
go.
not.
There.
Yeah. So, and so it's actually, you're right. It's a spiritually, and you brought up Psalms, so that's the most spiritual, devotional thing of all. So Yeah, so I like healthy discussion. Also, as a Muslim, I think Islam needs to be critiqued, and we should get a hard look at ourselves. And so, therefore, any kind of criticism I really welcome. Actually,
Well, I mean, you've heard. I'm not going to go down that road. You already heard all of it, or give or take. I don't say
I know,
all
but
of it, but a
you
lot
keep
of it.
telling me about these videos, 15-minute long videos, 2-minute long videos, and all that. But I don't like it. I'm just trying to see, And then you said that there's a professor, and then there's like a. But
All
okay,
right,
let
let's
me say
watch
about
that one. Let's watch that.
let me say this though also. So this the problem also becomes when this gets wrapped up in politics. Because, for example, so in 2003, I was in high school, and I remember very well the build up to the Iraq War. So a right wing agenda becomes married to an evangelical Christian
Mm.
opposition to Islam, and then that leads America down a path where, you invade a country, you lose precious blood and soil, like your youngest and most ablest and finest young men, dying for no reason in a faraway country by the thousands, hundreds of thousands of Iraqis killed, but trillions of dollars also down the drain. Iran becoming a stronger force in the region, which empowers Hezbollah to attack Iran and everywhere else. So, if you want to marry religion and politics, you cheapen religion. Um, but anyway, there is a criticism to be made, but the thing is that it has not worked out well for Christianity to be married to evangelical Christianity to be married to right wing politics in America for the past 20 years, and evangelicals are losing numbers, and the Bush name destroyed the Republican Party. In many ways, it created Donald Trump. So if you don't like the guy, just look at George W. Bush. Because anyway, so this is problematic to think of a clash of civilizations. We, I do agree, there's a clash of ideology, but and like I said, I don't mind any criticism. I welcome, I appreciate. We should learn and grow. There's a lot to fix about our civilization. Um, but if um, if this is about scaring voters, basically, um, this is a this it's a different agenda than the one we started out with. And like I said, the Iraq War is the greatest tragedy of the past 20 years, arguably.
Mm. So yeah, I'm a little confused. What you mean?
By the way,
Like
I
you
supported
think?
the Iraq War when it was out, so I'm not even saying like I knew better or something. I mean, I thought it was anyway.
So, but I'm a little confused. Like you brought up politics. Do you think that what I'm doing is related to politics, or you're just saying in general?
It sounds like the video you're about to show me, because I had a, I talk about the Arab-Israeli conflict with my Jewish friends, and it's great. But my one of my friends sent me a slideshow about how Muslim numbers are growing. There's gonna be like more Muslims in Europe because of birth rates by the end of the century than there are Christians. There already are more practicing Muslims in England and France than there are in practicing Christians. So, if you let them immigrate, then you're going to have a population boom because they breed like rabbits, and that's the end of Western culture as we know it.
Your Honor, for the record, it was not the Christian, but it was the Muslim who said they breathe like rabbits. Quote unquote.
No, I mean, well, I'm summarizing your argument. I'm
I'm just
summarizing what
saying,
you're.
in case YouTube, whoever wants to flag me for that, it wasn't me. That's
Yeah,
my
yeah, okay,
point.
okay, okay. No, okay, but so what I'm saying is though this becomes about politics, and if you want to talk about
No, no,
God, we can
not
talk
at
about
all. I
God.
mean,
If you want to talk about God, we can talk about God. But
yeah, no, not at all.
like all those videos about terrorism and becoming an issue. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
this is not at all about politics. I mean, the thing that you talk about is actually the very thing that I combat, which is this left-right again, that's exactly what I'm what I'm addressing and discussing and trying to combat. Um, and the phenomena started, before the turn of the century. Even the colors of the two parties, as they say, switched. It used to be the other way around.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean,
Blue is Republican. Yep.
yeah. So there's something very diabolical there. I mean, for the Democrats to change it from red is to kind of try to hide the fact that they have communist roots. Maybe just putting that out there. So yeah, I mean now these days is very much in your face, and they don't have to hide anymore. I mean there's now layers upon layers of reverse psychology and triggering and so on. So I mean it's practically part of our
Here's
genetic
the thing.
makeup by now.
Do you realize capitalism also destroys religion? Like I know communism wasn't the enemy of religion in the 20th century, but do you realize like capitalism destroys culture? It destroys traditional culture. Um, we hinted on this the other day, but like the cable companies and all the kids playing Fortnite, so they don't care about religion and who cares about God because we're just playing Fortnite with 8 million other people. That is the number one threat. So like, or you know what else capitalism does? It steals culture. So like you'll see like, um, but it doesn't create it. It just steals traditional culture. So anyway, it's just there. It'll use it for an advertisement, but it won't. It doesn't actually create anything of value. So I'm just saying. So this is my response to that. I don't mean to get all
We're getting off
abrasive
on
with
a
it.
political tangent, but all
No,
right, go
no, no.
ahead, go first. Sorry.
But what I'm saying is though, if you're very worried about like communism being the bad guy, but like
Well, that's part of it. I
no,
mean,
capitalism is the real because communism is dead. Capitalism is the real bad guy. Like
wow, okay.
capitalism has destroyed everything traditional and continues to do so. Continues to do so. It will. It
Can you
will.
give an example? I mean,
Okay.
we
So
got completely off the topic here.
okay, I remember learning about megachurches in a political science class, and the professor pointed out that like, look, so what if right, a megachurch is just a place where you go to feel good about yourself
So
and to
let me let me
receive
let me let me back up here.
motivational
You said,
self-help teaching.
hold on, hold on. Let
There's
me. I
no
just want to. I'm just trying
discussion
to
of
hold on.
dogma.
Stop. So I just want to clarify. So you said the professor told you that mega churches were an example of capitalism. Did I hear you right? I just want to.
You're right. They're the pinnacle of capitalism
Okay.
in religion, because there is no preaching of the perpetual virginity of Mary inside a megachurch. Right? They don't worry about whether you believe that or not. They're not going to preach against it. They're not going to preach for it. Right? What they really want is you to come and give them money. So they'll build a $10 million cathedral. They'll have like a very handsome guy in the front, dressed in a sharp suit and have a very soothing voice, and he'll tell you that like God wants you to be rich, and this is the Bible says so, and that Jesus was the rich man, and you should pray for a private jet, basically, and people go to that by the millions. They contribute to those. Those churches are only expanding, but what it is a self help motivational stuff, and it's in the garb of Christianity, but it's not really Christianity, and they're incredibly successful actually.
Let
But
me ask.
that is what it that's what makes sense, right? Because like for example, like if I'm a store, right, and I want you to buy my spoons, I don't care if you're Jewish, I don't care if you're Christian, I just want you to buy the spoon. So the same way, I just want you to come in the church, give the tithe, and tithe 10% or whatever, and then leave. We don't have to have disagreements that might turn you away.
Let me ask
It's a
you.
product.
Hmm?
Sorry.
Would you categorize the institution of universities as capitalist or communist?
I they're often public, but okay. Did you know 40% of college students in the United States are children of the 1%?
Run that by me again.
Yeah,
40.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So 1% is people who make over $400,000 a year.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Talking about the 1%,
Okay.
right?
So The colleges that they
But hold
have
on. I
is
understand the argument, but it seems like you're trying to avoid the question.
no. But I would
Yeah.
like you to. But here's I'm explaining it. Okay, so
All
it
right.
may seem like all the professors are liberal, and they all have this bubble where they talk about safe
No,
spaces
I'm talking about
and
economics. We're talking
fingernails
about
and all
two
that.
economic systems, capitalism versus communism. Would you say that universities are capitalistic or communistic with regards
Universities are
to?
capitalistic to the core because anyway, I mean, Harvard has an endowment of over $100 billion. So they pay. You know how they pay for teacher salaries and everything else.
Yeah.
They
Uh,
just have all that invested in mutual funds, and they accrue 3 or 4% interest or whatever, and then that 3 or 4% interest pays for everything.
Anam,
So
you're killing me, brother. What are you doing
there's
to me?
they're sitting on top of like billions of dollars in endowments. They
Okay.
are, yeah. I
I
mean, they,
grant you that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
why are you using an example of a private institution to justify public universities? The standard.
No, okay. You asked me, is the system capitalist or
Okay.
communist?
Yeah. So
So,
the generally speaking, the
I mean,
universities that are public that everyone goes to that can't afford 50,000 a semester. Outside of these private Ivy League institutions of Harvard, Yale, and so on, which are less than 1% of the universities in the United States. All those other universities, the 99%, are they communistic or capitalistic in how they approach their finances, their economies, their how they run their operations?
you're gonna accuse me of not answering the question, okay?
Apologize, I upset you. All
Okay,
right,
here, let
so
me. No, no, no. Let me. I would love to answer your question. It is a very astute question, and again, like you're saying, the model is communist because the government's paying for everything and it's subsidized and it doesn't cost that much money. But here's the thing, right? Is that um, first, um, did you know we're the only country in the world that has college athletics? And those college athletics make so much money. Whatever they spend to build the new arena for the basketball or the new whatever for the football stadium is very small in comparison to, do we have a political science building, do we have a philosophy building, do we have, they built all that stuff in the 50s and 60s. They're not expanding. What all the money goes to, first of all, most of colleges anyway employ administrative staff. That's their number one expense. It's not even professors. um, and then, like I said, so much money goes into athletics, and those athletics involve, millions of dollars and millions of dollars for endorsements, advertisements, and things like that. But here's the thing, and those coaches get paid millions of dollars too. The athletes are not allowed to even get a free lunch from someone. So those athletes are basically slaves. If they're injured, they lose their scholarship and they lose everything.
mm,
So I understand athletics might be a thing, but I'm just telling you this: the way this model is, this model is a very capitalist model in the sense that, um, if it's the entire educational model of the U.S. comes from the Prussian military academy, where you're designed to have rows of children drilled like like soldiers, and you're churning out a factory to make workers for the economy.
yeah.
So I don't know. I see a capitalist model. Now, I
Can I
mean,
tell
if
you?
you want to ask me, is all the professors are liberal or conservative? The
No,
answer
no,
is
no.
that they're all
Let's
liberal.
before we get out in that topic. I'm
Okay.
not even touching that. So let me push back on what you just said. So I was actually part of a. I've been to a lot of universities actually. I was called a professional student. So I've been to universities from literally coast to coast, border to border, and abroad. But I also was invited to help with the reaccreditations process with one of the universities, and I got to see behind the camera. Worked as a teacher's assistant, a research assistant at one of the universities. Um, I can tell you that one of the things that professors hate is the fact that funding goes to these this aspect of universities, the ones that have the athletics programs. Not all of them do, but the ones that do, they hate it because all the money goes there, all the funding goes there, but there's no return. See, they see it as a money pit. That's their claim. Now, there's probably somebody making money. You're saying, as far as television advertising and all that, you're right. Where does that money go? Somebody's making money, but according to the faculty, it's not the university. It's a money pit. But
Yeah.
still,
I mean, it
even
goes to the
even
coach and the university. It doesn't go to the programs of the professors.
yeah, I don't know.
But like you more important though, you get prestige. You get like the best students. You get like
Yeah,
so there's so much prestige going on. Like everybody wants to go to your school because you have the best team.
the whole alumni association.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's okay, so there's some kind of return. There's a reason they do it. But here's the other thing. Even if they were making tons of money, it's still only one aspect of the university. The rest of it is still under the system that's, federally funded and um, controlled and so on. And so it's still very, what? Isn't that communistic?
I mean, there's no central planning. Each state develops the curriculum. Each university develops its own curriculum. Like, there's no like even the accreditation is kind of ridiculous because like you're accredited by a private entity, so like how is that at all like
It's
you're there's no syllabus control, so that would
it's
be
a
communist. But by the
it's
way,
yeah.
in France in the 60s, it was said that the minister of France could point to you the exact page of the textbook that they were studying at 9:40 in the morning if you ask them what are the kids studying today. So there's no centralized control.
No arguments here. I mean, there's
All right. So what's communist about private companies accrediting private colleges to have a private curriculum?
well, it's all government controlled. It's technically it's private, but it's federal. It's
Look,
federally regulated and mandated and enforced, and you
it's
know
just
it.
federally funded, but like, and you know what? The way I know it's not federally regulated in any way is because the standards have only gone down since like the 60s
No,
and 70s. So people are getting dumber.
yeah,
So
that's
like
part of the plan. That's exactly what Yuri Bezdomov
no, okay,
warned in the
but so
70s.
in the 60s and 70s, though, when the government control was at its height, people were smarter, they learned more, they came out with actual skills that could actually get a job. So actually, I kind of want government control from the 70s, like Nelson Rockefeller. This is too much private destruction involved.
Mhm. All right. So the whole point of that was, well, let's talk about what the next thing about whether or not professors are liberal. So the whole point of that was if the economics are communist, and we seem going to have to agree to disagree on this, but um, I'm going to say that I'm going to still going to call them communist. But regardless, would you argue that the professors are not liberal? Is that what you're arguing? Generally speaking.
They're they're in a cocoon, which allows them to have unrealistic ideas, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could call. I mean, I guess they'd be liberal, but somebody was sitting to say like, you know, for example, I'll tell you this. Like, I know I follow. I don't really follow him. There's a Catholic guy on YouTube. He's like too extreme for most channels. He teaches at a Catholic high school. He tells a Muslim kid something flippant or a Sikh kid that. So the premise of Catholic education is that you don't ever tell somebody who's not Catholic not to come to the school, or you don't tell them that they're going to hell or something like that. So, I mean, it, is that guy conservative and is the school liberal for firing him? I mean, I know
That
you're
guy
saying,
sounds like a nut,
yeah.
frankly.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like so is tolerance of other people like liberal per se or not? Like there's it's actually strange to um and then I thought you said you were about defined left right but okay, without being argumentative, let me on the surface of the question, Yeah, these guys are liberal. But let me also say this, right? They they're not. I don't think. I don't know. There's such a mixed bag too, because of course, yeah, there's people who might be like dedicated leftists, but I would say most liberal professors would be like your average liberal American in the sense that, like, like, remember, America comes out of, in the 60s and 70s, America used to be like very Episcopalian and Presbyterian, like mainline Protestant churches. And then some, then they became more atheist. So they're just like secularized American. It's, I mean, but I wouldn't say they were all a certain way, because
Yeah.
you know some of them were quite conservative. Like, I mean, you grew up. I mean, I remember, like, I remember having this discussion with mom. In third grade, a girl in my class showed up with lipstick on. My science teacher chewed her out in front of the class. Said, "Are you wearing lipstick? Did you wear lipstick to school?" So, like, like, I don't know about today, but like back then, we grew up in a very conservative time. This is the '90s, early '90s. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't allow clothing and like little girls to wear certain kind of clothing or certain kind of nails and things like that. I don't know, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is, it's I don't know. Was my science professor being conservative? I mean, I guess by the standards of today, she'd be conservative, but like back then, that was just the you don't encourage somebody to beautify themselves at like six, 6, 7, 5 years old. You don't have to, like, that creates a problem also for the other girls at school because they want to wear makeup too. So anyway, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of strange to just use labels like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's the labels. So the whole point of this discussion was, you're associating what I'm trying to do with politics. My point was this. For me, it's not about left or right and all that, even though it might not sound like it to you,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much most people these days. For me, it's all about whether or not you're Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hope that doesn't burn you, but for whatever reason, I see you as Christian,
I
even
do.
though even though you declare yourself as Muslim.
No, no, but deep down, I'm Christian.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
So, I mean, even I had, maybe this is TMI. Hopefully, I don't piss anyone off or get in trouble for saying this, but I had a Persian professor who was absolutely liberal, and I'm judging her by her food snatch. I shouldn't say, "Hey, I'm liberal."
Yeah.
But when we had a sit down in her office, she was my advisor at first, and she goes, and we're taking on real clients for our projects. This is graduate school, um, and she goes, well, at the time I was still in pursuit of seminary, theological studies, and all that. So my real client ended up being the church, a Christian one. And she goes, "Well, I don't believe in that religious stuff." To me, that was I got blindsided by that comment and that
Mm-hmm.
attitude
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
always saw her as a Christian, even though
Mm-hmm.
she was a female professor at this public university that was extremely liberal, as it turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, literally yelling at professors who were teaching theology who wanted to discuss Christianity. I mean, literally, we're treating like stepchildren that they couldn't speak. Um, yeah, but for me, it was like, whoa, because she was such a nice person. I was not expecting her to have that attitude. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to get to is this, that I don't really care about anything else. I really don't. All I care about is whether or not you're a friend or enemy of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, us and them, it is all about that and nothing but that. So
Yeah.
there's,
True.
yeah. And
True.
to your point, there's people on the right, as I say, or conservatives, or whatever label you want to use, Republicans, whatever, that are just as guilty of being anti-Christian as anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say, I know why you're pursuing this line of discussion with me, even though like I wouldn't give you that like, um, like communism and capitalism are both enemies of true religion, and that professors are not liberal depending on how you look at liberal or whatnot. Like I fought with you on both of those points. Last time I spoke extensively how much pornography is peddled by the internet companies and the cable companies, and it's designed to make you corrupted and in the way you see the flesh as simply the flesh.
Or
Whereas
people.
people as just flesh instead of intrinsically with souls, and that this is a beautiful thing that God has made for us, and life comes out of this. It's a miracle that science still can't explain. Like, how does an embryo form in the womb, right? It's a whole miracle. And so before your very eyes, like somebody said, can someone send me a picture of a miracle? Send him a picture of a fetus growing inside a womb. That's a miracle. That's all you need to ask. Don't ask for more than that, because it is incredible how you came from like a one-celled organism and now you're this big kid. So, so corrupting our attitude towards sex is the number one way that the companies. You talk about Hollywood, I talk about cable companies, but to me that's all capitalism. But anyway, how that like and I'm telling you, I grew up in the late '90s. Like I've seen two generations just become, and like I was born in '86. So I'm born at a very unique time. Like I still remember typewriters and sewing machines that like you had a foot pedal on. So,
Wow.
um,
That
hey,
brings back memories.
let me jump out though. We'll pick this up some other time, and I'll watch your videos with you. Even after your surgery, I can just watch them quietly.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, bummer.
Have a
I
good
was
day.
just, all right. Let me before you take off,
Okay.
check out a movie called Leap of Faith with Steve Miller. Steve Miller? I'm
Okay.
getting that wrong. Steve Martin. I don't know. I forgot. I can't. The
Oh,
names.
okay, okay, okay. Hollywood.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the movie's called Leap of Faith. I think it's from the '90s. I think
Yeah.
you'll really enjoy it. Maybe
Thank
we
you.
could talk about that in the future.
Thank you.
All right, man.
Talk
Love
to
you,
you
man.
soon.
You take care.
Sorry for
Thank you for
jumping
doing
out. Take
this.
care.
No
Have a good day.
worries.
See you.
All right, bye.